Good morning, New Vision Center. Good morning. I'm Reverend Leslie Goodwin, your Associate Minister here at New Vision Center. So let's take a moment and send some love to Reverend Karen, where she is vacationing in Oregon. Send the good juju. We really appreciate when people take time and take self-care and do what feels good in their soul. So we're wishing her a fantastic week off. We are in an annual theme that has been all about the seeds of love. And we have prepared the soil and we have planted our seeds with love and care, yes? Both our literal seeds and our consciousness seeds. And we have cultivated and we have fed our plants wonderfully, and they have sprouted and they're yay high. And do I have corn yet? No, but I want some. I'm from Iowa, and sweet corn is delicious, and I want my corn right now. Never happened to you, right? Where you've done the work, you've done the work, you've done the work, you've done the work, and where's my corn? And some lovely person like me says, patience. And then you think very mean things about me. And it's reasonable. It's reasonable. We're in the place of our annual theme that's called nurturing. It's where we're loving on our intentions and we're continuing to feed it, but there is a lot of waiting and a little bit of uncertainty. And the longer the wait goes, the more we can start to feel a little bit like maybe the nice lady on the platform made it all up. And there will never be corn. And corn doesn't even exist. Oh, it so happens to us, right? We learn these wonderful affirmations through the course of our time in growing in our spiritual life. And we know them. They're in there, right? God is all there is. God is only, like we've got the basics, right? If I were to start throwing out wise phrases, no one in this room would be like, what? There's spirit? Why didn't anyone tell me? We know. And at the same time, despite the fact that we know that we plant the plant and it grows and it's going to be a while before we get to eat the corn, there's this place in the middle where the waiting gets hard. There's this place in the middle where faith starts to feel hard, or like it doesn't even exist in us. Yes? So that's what we're talking about today, because in that moment, we start to feel like we're in this alone. We're in this life on our own, alone. And that's such a lovely feeling, right? Oh, it's heart-wrenching. And we can be in a circle of people who love us so much that would do anything for us. And when we are in that place, it doesn't matter. We can't see them. We can't feel them. The connection isn't there. We feel alone. And yet, we know, because we've read the books, and at times we've even touched it in the center of our own heart. We know that we are never on our own. So that's the title of today's talk, Never on My Own. I never have to deal with any of it on my own. Be it the health things that Ralph was talking about that the men's group brought up, or financial struggles, or depression, or emotional issues, or goals not reaching fruition the way I think they should, or frankly, even the corn isn't growing fast enough. We're never, ever in it completely on our own, though we can feel like we are. I would go so far as to say there's probably no one in this room, there's probably no one on this planet who has never felt that feeling of, in my mind, it sounds something like this. What if I'm just making all this up and it's all just a bunch of crap and we're just individual ants floating around a rock in space and nothing means anything and everything's really terrible and I could just go back to bed? Or something like that. Ernest Holmes, the founder of our teaching, said it this way: no person walks through this life alone, and all people are lonely until they meet the one who is awake within their sleeping consciousness. I'm going to read it again because it's really important that we get this all the way in ourselves. No person walks this life alone, and all people are lonely until they meet the one who is awake within their sleeping consciousness, that oneness that is inside of ourselves. So we have this divide where we know all the phrases that are supposed to make us feel better, right? There's a list. In Prac 1, they're always asking us for the list. There isn't actually a list. But we know what they are, right? They're the things that you say to yourself in the middle of the night when you woke up with a panic attack and you're trying to talk yourself off the ledge. I'm okay, I'm okay, I'm okay. God is here, God is here, God is here. Again, just me. So we know these things, and then we feel these ways anyway. So there's a divide between the answers, the truths, what I call a truth, a truth that is true no matter what, the true truths, and actually feeling it in the center of our body so deep that nothing else can ever peek into my consciousness, the thing that pulls me together from the inside. How do we bridge that gap? And in thinking about this yesterday in the bathtub, which is the only place I make good decisions, I was thinking about how do we create a system? I'm a girl who loves a system. I love a reproducible system like nothing you've ever seen. And I thought, what is my thought process? How do I get myself out of that loop? And I created, and will share with you today, the circle of unitive consciousness. Ta-da! Thank you. Thank you. There's a little more to it than that, but this is where we're going to start, the circle of unitive consciousness. Now, unitive is just a fancy word for oneness, right? Tending toward unity, and conscious is just a fancy word for thoughts and awareness. So really, I could have called this the circle of remembering I'm not alone, but I like big words. So it's the circle of unitive consciousness. As opposed to Christ consciousness, which would, if I was having that talk, it would be the circle of unconditional loving consciousness, in case you ever wondered what the difference was. But we're talking about unitive consciousness, meaning I am never alone because everything is one. How do I get myself from the little factoid things we memorize in foundations class to not having a nervous breakdown at 3 a.m.? This is the goal, right? Because it's really great if you can tell me all the favorite affirmations, but it doesn't really do us any good if we're not actually hearing them at 1 minute before we go into the meeting with the boss, where they're either going to give us the promotion or fire us. That's when we need to be in the circle of unitive consciousness. So what on earth is Reverend Leslie babbling about today? It's 6 true truths that build on each other to get us to that space. Now, a couple of caveats. This is my circle that I'm sharing with you. Your circle might look a little different. One of the phrases I throw up here may not be the phrase you would choose. You maybe would word it differently. Good. This is good. I want you to notice that if you notice it and make it be right for you. Because we're all different. We all have different brains and hearts and lives and experiences. Second, I use the word God a lot in this. Here's a secret. God is a very short word and it fits on the slide nicely. A lot of words are going to end up on this slide as it grows. And so please don't let my use of the word God limit your understanding of how this might work for you. If spirit works for you, great. If the all good that is everywhere and in everything and makes me feel yummy and made lollipops is what you call God, sweet. That did not fit on the slide. So we're going to start with the thing that for me is the thing that kind of starts the whole cycle. If you were to ask me, Leslie, and people do all the time, Leslie, what do you know for sure? A little bit of an Oprah question. What do you know for sure? I would say this: God is infinite and God is only good. So that seriously could be like a year's worth of talks right there. So my apologies that I'm going to break it down for you in like 1 minute. God is infinite. What is infinite? Omnipotent, all-powerful, can do anything. Omniscient, all-knowing, knows you perfectly to the very depth of your being, even better than you know yourself, and loves you so much and wants everything good for you. And omnipresent, everywhere, in the CAT scan machine, everywhere. At the protest on the side of the people that aren't your side of the protest, everywhere. So God is infinite, no limits of any kind, not even the one that person over there just thought of. Nope, not that one. No limits. And God is only good. Now, good is a tricksy word in science of mind. It's a tricky word because we use it as a filler word for every quality of God. Love, freedom, wholeness, peace, joy, blessings abounding, abundance. When we say good, we mean whatever one of those you are most seeking right now. All the good things, right? So we don't just mean God is only a nice, well-behaved 5-year-old who sits pleasantly in the third row of church and does not make fun of Reverend Leslie. We mean all the good stuff. So God is infinite and God is only good. Only good? Only good, Leslie? Seriously? Because what about fill in the blank thing that you're thinking what about right now? What about the war in Ukraine? What about what's going on with the Supreme Court? What about racial tension? What about people that get sick? What about? How is God everything and only good and, right? Wouldn't it be so much nicer if you could just do that in class instead of having to make sentences for me? Here's the thing. The not good, the evil like the fruits of the devil for people who watch Mike Myers movies, isn't a thing. It's a not thing. Stay with me, Rachel. We're going to be okay. If good is light, right? You go into the room, you turn on the light, right? You leave the room, you turn off the light, or you leave it on like my children, forever. But you can never turn on the dark. You can never go in and say, this room is too light. Could somebody please turn on the dark? There's no dark switch. Not good is an absence of awareness of the light. It's an absence of tuning into the good, which is why we can say God is always good and it's also everywhere all the time. But we don't have to notice it. We are not obligated to pay attention to it. We don't have to tune into it. And we are real good at missing it, right? We are. We have to relearn, because children, we were born good at this. We were born very good at noticing the light. Children are great at it, and then it gets trained out of us. So we have to learn to take it back in. God is infinite, and God is only good. Which takes us to God expresses as everything and everyone. Now this makes sense, right? Because we already said God is infinite, and stuff exists. I'm pretty sure on this one. Stuff exists. And if God is everywhere and stuff exists, then God has to be the stuff. It's literally the building blocks of life. It's like Legos. It's the only reasonable answer, Mark. God is Legos. I'm killing Mark and Charlie over here. It is the stuff. So for my science folks out there, I know you're out there going, no, subatomic particles, quarks. Up quarks and down quarks, up quarks and down quarks. We've definitely reached the end of my understanding of quantum physics at that. God too. Someday we're going to find out what makes up the quarks, because there's always something smaller. We just need, the ability to find it. What makes that up? God too. It's the thing that binds the stuff together. It's everything in everyone all the time. People and this podium and this shoe, probably this one as well. They're so sparkly. Everything and everyone. It's what everything is. Try to think of someone that is not God. Like really dig in. You know the one. Them too. Yeah, them too. It's the only thing there is to be made of, which is convenient because that means we're all the same. We're all made of the same stuff, right? And when we know that, then that means that all good and that infinite conscious quality is in everyone and everything. So we're set up for success here. And this carries us right into another thing I'm quite certain of, which is I exist. The stuff exists, I exist, and therefore I am an expression of God. You know, God is infinite. It's the only thing that there is. It has to be if it's infinite. There's no room for anything else. It takes up a lot of space, this God thing, in that it's everything. I exist. I have to be that too. Whew, take a breath. Because this is a little jump logically and a big jump psychologically. Right? I mean, it has to be a little jump logically. Look how close the blobs are to each other. There's an arrow. They're connected. But inside ourselves, we have to remember, if I am made of divine conscious goodness, from my toenails to my last weird thought, if all of it is God and everything in between is God, then I am a walking form of God. And before we get too sassed out about this, so is Diane, and so is George. Charlie. For anybody who's worried about me giving Charlie a hard time, please know he started it. I exist, I'm an expression of God. You exist, you're an expression of God. Everyone, everywhere, including the person that you tried to rule out on the last step. That one too, we all are. We are different, we are unique. We may not want to have brunch together, but that doesn't take away our divine core. And then we start getting sassy and serious when we get to the I am one in God. Why not with? To be with something is to imply that it is separate from you. If God's over here and I'm here, then I'm not an expression of God. English doesn't work well with this way of thinking, so we find our ways around it. I like to say I am one in God, meaning that I am of it. Even though I fall off my shoes, that too is God. Boy, and the crazy thing is that they're flat. And we have answered the question why Leslie is not wearing heels on the platform. Ernest Holmes actually said, not even in, of. I am of God. But sometimes the linguistics of that get it so twisted that people lose track of what I'm even trying to say. So I go within, pick the word that works for you. I am one in God. Meaning, outside of God, there is no me. But we don't need to stress that because outside of God, there is no anything. So it's not fun over there, wherever that is. All the good things are in here where God is. This plays into panentheism, which is the fancy word. I do love a fancy word. The fancy word for what science of mind is, what new thought is. It's a little bit different than pantheism, which is God is everything. I mean, we're not a no for that. And God and I are one. Therefore, I am everything. It's a titch further than that, or titch different than that, because I do believe, science of mind does teach, that everything I am is God, and that the allness of God is available in me. But I can't be everything God is only because I cannot be God as Reverend Karen. Only Reverend Karen can be God as Reverend Karen in the fullness and completeness and magnificence and totality of the goodness of life coming through her. And she is fancy, yes? Yes, she's good stuff. We're fans. I can only do that as me, as this particular version of this particular fancy and the falling off the shoes and the telling funny jokes and the hopefully connecting hearts, right? We're all a little bit different, but we're all of God, in God. I can't be God as Ralph, but how great is Ralph, right? Which slides us into, I am connected with everything and everyone. Ooh, so we got to go back to the beginning to make this work, right? Because this might feel like a little bit of a jump. Because, I am one in God is a big step to I am one with Megan. But I want to feel one with Megan, right? I want to know that truth. So God is infinite and only good and is expressing as everything and everyone, including Megan. And I exist, so I'm an expression of God. And so is Megan. Please be doing this with whatever name is in your mind right now. I'm connected, or I'm one in God, so is Megan. And I'm connected with everything and everyone, including Megan. Including Megan. Do I have to go through God to get to Megan? No. I mean, good luck trying not to go through God. But do I have to consciously do that? No. Why? Think about it. We feel each other. I keep doing this. It's like there's like a string, right? And we move the string and we feel each other. You feel the energy of the people around you. You feel your family. We feel each other. Oh, we are connected. This carries us to, I have access to all God is. Remember that good we talked about? I have access to all of it. All of it. Not the little bit I think I deserve. Not the amount my dad thinks. Just in case he's watching. No, all of it. The full allness of the magnificence of the divine in every single aspect is available to every one of us in our own way all the time. So we feel the divine in us. We feel the connection to every beloved around us, including those we've never even met. How do we feel alone when we have this truth available to us all of the time? Because we forget. And that's why we do things like affirmations, to remember these sorts of truths so that when life gets hard and we tap into the whatever one of these is the least hard to grab onto in the moment when life is hard, it carries us into the cycle. Because here's the best news yet. I have access to all God is, and that's really good because God is infinite and only good. And the logic just keeps going. The logic just keeps going, and it carries us through whatever it is that we think is hard or difficult or pulling on our hearts. We are never, ever alone. This circle of unitive consciousness only takes knowing 6 truths. You learned more than that yesterday. That guy did. 6 truths to go from I am alone on a rock to I am always supported, always held, always loved, more than enough. God within me is expanding with every breath. And so here is the invitation. This is why we ask you to do your affirmations. Grab the affirmation that is the easiest for you to anchor into, either one of these 6 or the one that you rewrote in your mind. And really focus in on it in the next week and see if it doesn't start to carry you deeper into the pattern that makes you feel your most whole and complete and loved. And so it is. Let's anchor that in with some prayer. How good it is to drop down into that space where we know that we know that we know that we know that we know beyond any shadow of any doubt that there is infinite oneness at the heart of ourselves and of every beloved everywhere. where we can see with absolute clarity the infinitude of good that exists inside each heart, each life, each consciousness. And that as we pull those threads, that there truly is only one consciousness, one heart, one life, one mind that we call the divine. And so whatever is on hearts and minds this day, whatever brought us into this service today, we surrender it over into that oneness. We are not alone. There is goodness right where we are. There is wholeness where we seek better health. There is abundance where we seek a relief of debt. There is love where we seek healed relationships. There is peace where we seek a release of discord. All that we need is already here, and it is good. And so with a grateful heart, I just claim it for all of us as we say, and so it is.